Hello and welcome to Commsverse. This session is called Managing Microsoft Teams Rooms and Devices, and today will be presented to you by Eric Marcy. So without any further ado, over to you, Eric.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter which time zone you guys are in. I hope everybody's doing well for these different times. And hopefully it gives you guys some times to plan your Microsoft Teams devices that you have inside your organization, whether the users are taking them home or they're on site still at the corporate office. But today we're going to begin talking about how to manage your Microsoft Teams room systems and also Microsoft Teams devices. So that is your phones, your collaboration bars, your Teams displays. So we're going to kind of go looking through how we can manage each device type. And then at the end, we are going to have a live demo of everything going on. So kind of looking at our agenda for today, we're going to look at Teams rooms, Teams phones, and desk displays, collaboration bars, the Surface Hub, and then the demo and wrap up. So let's go ahead and start with the introduction, since some of you may not know me. My name is Eric Marcy, and I am from Barberton, Ohio. I am a Day 2 cloud engineer at an organization called T2M Works. Formerly, our organization was called Time to Market, but this past March, we went ahead and went through a name change and are now T2M Works. Here in the next 3 days, I will be a graduate of the University of Akron with a bachelor's in computer information systems with specialization in Cisco networking. So very exciting. This is kind of finals week for me, so staying very, very busy in addition to putting the presentation together for today. So I'm happy to be here, and we'll be very happy to have this week done and over with. Recently, I just passed my AudioCode Certified Associate certifications. Last year, I did pass my MCSE and MCSA certifications with Microsoft. IT in general has been a lifelong passion and hobby for myself. I can pretty much remember back to when I was 4 years old, was ripping apart computers, building electronics, and when I was in kindergarten, I saw a server rack for the first time, and I wanted one back in kindergarten. So it's just really been a lifelong passion, and very happy to now have a specialization working in the voice and collaboration industry. Some of my hobbies include tinkering. As stated before, I love building electronics, and I like figuring out how things work. So I love ripping stuff apart, figuring out the inner workings, stuff that normally not every person would know about a product. Absolutely love doing that. Again, electronics. And then also in the wintertime, skiing is a personal favorite hobby. Pretty much 4 or 5 nights a week, you will see me after work skiing. Absolutely love skiing, but sometimes the Ohio weather is a little bit iffy, and we don't have that great of snow conditions. So hopefully can make it out west or something this year. In addition to that, I also love four-wheeling as well during the spring to fall seasons. So today's session is going to go over everything that you need to know on how to manage different Microsoft Teams device categories. And we're also going to learn about the individual device categories. So even if you're not familiar with the individual device categories, we're going to kind of review those device categories and talk about how we want to manage those inside of organization. And along the way, we're going to talk about best practices and how you can use that to manage your Microsoft Teams devices. So the first device category that we are going to start off with is Microsoft Teams Rooms, formerly known as Skype Room Systems, and even if you go back further, Lync Room Systems. Microsoft Teams Rooms is kind of the next evolutionary step of Microsoft's meeting room space. So Teams Rooms allow you to transform different meeting spaces, whether it's a small huddle room or a large executive conference room, with rich collaborative Teams experience that's simple to use, deploy, and manage. So whether or not you have a single screen in the front of your room or a dual display in your front of the room, a Teams Room system is going to be able to power those devices and bring all the pieces together into one system. Teams Room Systems allow you to walk in to your meeting room and just use one touch join with a previously scheduled meeting to hop into your conference. I'm not sure if anybody here has ever used an older meeting systems such as like an Avaya conference bridge, but you used to have to walk into your room. You had to dial into a number, enter your PIN, enter your password just to even get into your meeting. And even then, it was still a voice-only experience. With Teams Room systems, it's simply walk into the room, plug in your laptop, or present wirelessly to your Teams device, and you have that one-touch meeting join into your meeting room. Microsoft is bringing some management features of the Microsoft Teams Room systems to the Teams Admin Center soon. It was announced last year at Microsoft Ignite, and we will actually kind of go over that in the next slide, what to expect when that does launch inside the Teams Admin Center. But today, Microsoft is currently recommending that you use Endpoint Manager and Azure Monitor, formerly Operations Management Suite, to manage the devices in your organization. You can also potentially look at some type of remote monitoring software such as like ConnectWise, Automate, or something that your organization is already using to manage devices. The downside of using those, though, is that there's not the insight to each individual component of the Teams Room system, such as, hey, is the camera plugged in? Hey, is the speakers plugged in? Or is everything working as expected? And we're going to kind of go into how Microsoft is addressing that in the upcoming slides. Now, if you do want to just remote control those devices in one of these scenarios where you're using the older tools, you can use something like VNC Server or ConnectWise Automate / Control to kind of you control those devices. And I'm using ConnectWise as an example, but you can have different products that you have out there as part of your IT's RMM platform. So with the features coming in the Teams Admin Center, Microsoft is allowing you to manage all your Teams rooms from a single pane of glass. This dashboard is going to go ahead and pull all your room systems in, allow you to categorize those rooms so you can kind of say, hey, these 5 rooms are at this office, these 5 rooms are at this office. So you can kind of get a little bit of granularity into it. But the nice thing about this is that it's a single pane of glass that pulls all the information about the Teams room system together. So information such as call quality information, or you had this meeting, there was 5 participants, but it came back as a poor meeting quality. You can dive into seeing exactly why that meeting had those call quality issues. It also gives you the ability to perform different features such as updates to the room devices. You can also restart the devices, pull a full audit trail from the Teams room system. And all that is at no cost to you for your organization. So once this feature goes live inside the Teams Admin Center, there will be 0 cost associated with it with Microsoft's Teams rooms. Now, Microsoft already has a different product on the market today, and that is Microsoft Managed Rooms. So this is a separate service that Microsoft is providing. And Microsoft Managed Rooms allow you to have insight in your Teams rooms, much like the Teams Admin Center. But in addition to you being able to monitor your Teams room system and see the information that your Teams room has, Microsoft is also monitoring your Teams room. So for example, if you have a Teams room system that's part of the Managed Meeting Room service, you'll be able to get a ticket automatically raised. Let's say you walk into a Teams room and somebody unplugs a camera accidentally, or something comes unplugged, something's not working right. A ticket is automatically rose with Microsoft, and Microsoft's own support staff will be reaching out to you to inform you, hey, something's going on with one of your Teams rooms. Can you go investigate it? In the future, Microsoft is going to enable partners to be kind of part of that program. So instead of alerting you, let's say you're part of a CSP program and you have a partner that manages your IT environment. Microsoft will soon be able to alert that partner instead of you directly, to have you work with the customer directly instead of actually reaching out to the customer themselves. Microsoft's team is a group of experts that is going to provide 24/7 monitoring and response to your Teams rooms issues. So what's really nice about this is that these individuals that are working as part of the Managed Meeting Room service are going to go ahead and have full insight and knowledge of the Microsoft Teams platform and the room system itself, so that they can provide the best amount of support. They know exactly what devices they have on the market, how everything's connected depending on which vendor you chose for your room system. So it's really going to be a great benefit to your organization. In terms of pricing, Microsoft did announce that each managed meeting room is going to cost an organization $50 a month. And that pays for the support service from Microsoft, that pays for the actual managed meeting room interface. But big thing to keep in mind here that Microsoft is kind of pushing with this is that this is just their management, their management pane of glass, and them managing your team's room system. You can kind of pull in here and pull the same analytics that is going to be available soon for free inside the Teams Admin Center, but this just kind of gives you an extra bit of support and manageability into your Microsoft Teams room. If you are going to want to use the service, you are going to for sure need a certified MTR. Pretty much any device on the market is a certified MTR, but you can't just build one or say, hey, I'm going to use this PC as an MTR. And also you will need licensing to enable that Teams rooms that Teams rooms as an available device. So whether or not you're using a Microsoft Meeting Room license, which would save you a few dollars a month, or if you're using like an E3, E5 along with phone system and everything else to get full capabilities into your Teams room. Now, in terms of features, kind of discussed before, the Microsoft Meeting Rooms provide a management for all rooms via an online portal, very similar to what will be coming in the Teams Admin Center. And it will also provide kind of health and compliance reporting along with insights and recommendations. So, if there's detecting a lot of echo on your microphone during meetings, there's going to be an alert risen via the management portal that's going to say, hey, you need to investigate this room. There's a lot of echo coming back. Maybe you need to install some sound dampening squares in the ceiling or something to kind of reduce that echo inside that Teams room. The Microsoft Managed Meeting Room software also integrates with Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So this is formerly known as System Center Configuration Manager. So you do have some deep integration with that if you are using that to manage your Microsoft Teams rooms. Also, the portal allows you to go ahead and get some interactive support. So, once a ticket is risen, whether it's automatically or, you ran into an issue with the Teams room that hasn't been reported yet, and you want to get Microsoft's help on that, it allows you to go ahead and communicate with Microsoft support. And again, as mentioned previously, managed meeting rooms will be working with partners in the future. So instead of kind of reaching out to the customer who may or may not have the knowledge capable of fixing the Teams room or kind of looking into what the issue is, they're going to reach out to that partner first. So if you're interested in Microsoft Meeting Rooms, Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms, and you want to go ahead and enroll in this, it's a very simple process that we will go over kind of in the demo portion of this presentation. But you're pretty much going to go to rooms.microsoft.com, and you're going to go ahead and sign up and request a free trial of the product. Once you have the free trial of the product in your hand, you'll be able to go to portal.rooms.microsoft.com, and you'll go ahead and be able to sign in and get to the management dashboard. Once signed in, you're going to want to navigate to settings on the left-hand side of the portal, and there's going to be two download options presented to you. There's going to be the actual Managed Meeting Room app, and then there's also going to be a .key file. That .key file is what ties that Managed Meeting Room app to your tenant. So to install this, you're going to log into your Teams room system as an admin and transfer that .key file to the C:/Rigel folder, and then just run the exe installer of the Managed Meeting Room service. After that is done, within 5 to 15 minutes, you're going to see that room appear inside the Managed Meeting Room portal. Now, once it is inside the portal, you're going to go ahead and start seeing a lot of the information being pulled in from the device, but the device is not actively monitored until you press a button that's called enroll. Once it is the enrollment is completed for that Teams room, is going to start sending alerts to you and Microsoft if anything is unplugged. So on my previous slide, and we'll actually kind of dive into this during my demo, you'll actually see that there is the camera disconnected, just kind of verify that, hey, it is reporting that, hey, there is no camera connected to this Teams room. But after that camera is connected, you can see that, hey, there's nothing to report and everything as well. And you can kind of see that in the bottom screenshot. Now, if there is a Teams room that you did enroll that maybe you didn't want to enroll in the Managed Meeting Room service, maybe it's like a test device that's going to go offline periodically, and you hit the unenroll button. For my own testing, the only way to get that to re-enroll is to remove the MMR application off of the device and reinstall it and reapply the key file on the device. After that is complete, the room will then appear in the unenrolled state again inside the Managed Meeting Room portal. So we've talked about Microsoft's management options via the Teams Admin Center or via the Managed Meeting Room service, but what other third-party options are there? So some, in terms of that, we're in great hands because some of the first-party manufacturers for Microsoft, third-party manufacturers for Microsoft, such as Logitech, Crestron, Yealink, and Lenovo, make their own management platform. Now, each different service has their pros and cons, and each one is different in how they work, but it is important to know that there are other services out there. Logitech Sync is a free service that Logitech provides that provides deep information in Logitech devices, whereas other services are more of a paid type service. So what's nice about these services, though, is that if your organization has, let's just say you have Logitech Taps deployed, or you have Crestron devices that are being used for Zoom in Zoom rooms, and you're moving from Zoom to Teams, you can manage those devices from that single pane of glass instead of having to rely on each vendor's specific management interface. So if you have 50 rooms, 25 or more in Zoom, and you haven't migrated them yet to Microsoft Teams rooms, you can still manage those all from one management pane instead of actually having to go ahead and reach out to another vendor to manage those devices. Now, there is some things that are a little bit different about this, where they may or may not have all of the specific Microsoft Teams features that Microsoft is able to provide with their closed stack. But there is a lot of insight that those platforms can provide that even maybe Microsoft may not have insight into. So it's kind of like a who's who 50-50 split thing, where some features may be here and some features may be there. And it's really dependent on which platform is chosen. Now, as stated before, because the MTRs run Windows 10, you could potentially use your own internal management platform. So again, another example here is like ConnectWise Automate, but you could also use something like SolarWinds or something else to go ahead and manage the device if you can create the custom profiles and the custom reporting that you would need to be able to pull from that information. So the one product I am going to talk about briefly is the Crestron Zio Cloud. So like I was saying earlier, where the manufacturers' independent management platforms can manage different room system devices, whether or not they're being used for Teams or for Zoom or for Google. Crestron has their product, but they also add the ability to manage phones from the product. So if you have any of the Crestron P-Series Teams phones, you can manage those all from the same pane of glass, like kind of like the Teams Admin Center. But in addition to just supporting Crestron hardware, Crestron does support other manufacturers' hardware, such as Logitech cameras. So kind of what you're seeing here is that there's a lot of interop between these devices. Now, the Crestron Zio Cloud is licensed on a per room basis. So if you have 15 devices in one room, all 15 of those devices are covered by a single license. And because we're not having a third-party service managing your meeting room, the cost, such as Microsoft, we're not really going to be having the cost of having to pay for that support staff every month. So depending on which features that you do select, if you were to ever use the Crestron Zio platform, it is roughly anywhere 5 to 10 times cheaper than a managed meeting room solution from Microsoft. So some more information that on the Crestron Zio Cloud that's really cool is you can kind of really see into the health of each individual device inside your conference room, much like what is available via Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms or what will be soon available inside the Teams Admin Center. But then again, it does pull a lot of that vendor-specific information that may not be made available to Microsoft or other solutions. The other really cool thing that Crestron is able to provide in their solution is remote control of their devices. So some of the Crestron devices don't actually, plug in via USB into a NUC or anything. They're actually transferring data across the network and just doing screen sharing across the network. This system can actually tie into that, and you can bring up the console of a Microsoft Teams room right into the web interface of your computer. So it gives you, the ability to even control the room fully, like you were sitting there inside the Teams room. Now, the other really cool features that Crestron does have in this is that you can alert if your room capacity has been exceeded. So if the camera picks up, hey, there's 50 people in a 25-person room, it can alert you and say, hey, this room's overcrowded. perhaps maybe you need to look into adding another room, or saying, hey, there only needs to be a certain amount of people in this room. And like Microsoft, it will soon have support for partners where they can log in on behalf of an organization, similar to how Microsoft has their CSP program, where I can log into another customer's Office 365 tenant if I'm granted that permission. So if you do want to learn about more information about Zio versus other manufacturers' implementations, I want to personally invite you to Graham Walsh. He is the director of, I believe it's like the UC offerings of EMEA at Crestron. So do reach out to him tomorrow at 2 p.m. British Standard Time or 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there is that link there available on your screen to kind of learn more about what they can offer for your organization. So kind of now that we've gone over the management interfaces for Microsoft Teams Rooms, we're going to then hop into the next categories of devices, and that is our Microsoft Teams phones, desk displays, and Teams collaboration bars. So Microsoft Teams phones are available from multiple partners. We've got great devices, whether they're from AudioCodes, from Gaylink, from Poly. There are many different device types and form factors that can help fit you and suit you for your organization. Now, what's really cool about these is that the management interface for these is already available today in GA for the Teams Admin Center. So the Teams Admin Center is going to be your single pane of glass to manage the phones, common area phones, whether a meeting room phone, or even a collaboration bar. One big thing to keep in mind, though, is that like with the Teams Room systems, is that there are vendor-specific management opportunities that are available to you as an organization. So if you do have multiple devices for different platforms, you can then look into one of those for managing all your devices, regardless of the platform, from a single pane of glass. Now, another interesting category of devices that came up from Microsoft this past year is what's called desk displays. So it runs the exact same application that runs on your Teams phone, but occasionally usually has a little bit of a larger display if you're talking about like the Lenovo ThinkSmart View. But it may or may not just be the same form factor as your phone without the handset. So I couldn't actually find a quick picture of it, but those two Poly CCX series phones that you see there in the bottom left, there are a model of those phones where there is no handset at all on those. So it might be a solution that you might want to look into, whether or not it's like for a very small huddle room and you want to be able to have phones, but you may not need a handset in that room. You can at least still have your Teams meeting, that Teams experience in those rooms without having to invest a large amount of money in like a collaboration bar or a Teams Room system. So it is kind of one of what I would consider the cheaper of the solutions to be able to get a room into Microsoft Teams. And even if you don't use it for a room, you can still use it for an executive office. A lot of executive offices, like just like C-level execs, they like having like a separate table with a conference phone on it. Whereas now with these, you can kind of go ahead and add those to the table and be able to add a camera and still kind of pull those in. So it is kind of cool to see new interesting device form factors that we have not seen before kind of be added to the market. But one of my personal favorite and most interesting is what Microsoft has released as the collaboration bars. So they were first announced at Ignite 2019. Rest in peace to all of our in-person events for the year of 2020. Hopefully we get back at it next year. But it is designed to be a cost-effective solution for small to mid-sized huddle rooms. And what's really nice about this is that it does not run a full Windows 10 OS. It is running a Android operating system similar to how our Teams phone and desk displays are running, which means that the management for it is very simple in terms of being able to do everything right from the Teams Admin Center. Right now, today, there are different manufacturers that are providing these devices, and today currently there's Gaylink, who was the first provider, and Poly, who has their own device into this market. The devices support different touchscreens on multiple from different vendors, so that you can have the device itself actually optimized for touch and be able just to go ahead and tap the display that you're going to be performing your meeting on without actually having to have a separate room display like a Microsoft Teams room. And they're really designed to be plug and play. So for perhaps maybe you don't have like rooms that are dedicated as conference rooms, maybe you want to make like a makeshift conference room without having to have all this equipment, you can just take a collaboration bar into that room with a display, and within a couple minutes, you're going to have yourself a Microsoft Teams enabled meeting space. Now, what's really cool about these is that they are sized for the executive office / work from home scenario. So, like again, with those executive offices, if they want to have something that can kind of really pull them into those meetings and be able to like see what is being able to be provided, and in the meeting be able to see the executive instead of just being on an audio conference bridge, you can do that now with the collaboration bars. So now, as stated before, the collaboration bars are managed via their own interface inside the Teams Admin Center. However, even though they are separate, they are managed in the exact same way that the phones are managed. So after this, we're going to kind of hop into seeing how the phones are managed, but keep in mind that the way that the collaboration bars are managed are exactly the same for the phones. So the Teams Admin Center provides your single pane of glass for device management when the device is being used against Microsoft Teams solely. And you kind of see here in this below screenshot from my own lab environment that you can have all your devices listed out. You can see who the user is that's signed into that device currently, or the last person that was signed into the device. You can see whether if the device is online, who the manufacturer, the make and model on the devices, and also be able to see if there's any updates available for those individual phones. So, if you have, 500 devices in here, you can easily just go ahead and check the box next to all the devices and say, hey, it's a weekend, I'm going to do maintenance. I want to update all these devices now. As soon as you issue that, it's roughly like a 15 to 30-minute delay, but the device themselves will start beginning to download the new firmware updates, whether it's for the actual phone itself or for the actual Teams application on the phone. So it's not just updating the Teams application, it will update the device firmware when it's released from the manufacturer. It'll update all the individual applications that make the Android phone work with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft also provides configuration profiles as kind of like a base starting point for your devices. So whether or not you want to create like a configuration profile for all your common area phones, or for different departments in your organization, you can say, okay, if it's common area phone, I don't want a pin on this device. You can kind of come in here and create different configuration profiles depending on your needs of your organization. So in terms of the settings that you can do with these with these configuration profiles, Microsoft does provide quite a few options to you as the end user. So like I said before, you can control your device lock, the language, time zone, how you want the date and time to appear on the device. So if you have some phones in the UK, the date is going to appear differently over there than it would appear inside the US, depending on whether or not you put the day or month first, and then followed by the year. Also, you can enable or disable the device screensaver, control the timeout, and kind of force this down onto the device that you have it applied to as kind of like a group policy for Windows. So it's kind of like you controlling the policy and how the device is being used. Without a configuration profile assigned to the device, the device is going to let the user decide what is enabled or disabled. It will have a default template applied to it, but the user is still able to freely go and say, hey, I don't want a pin anymore on my phone, and they can completely disable that. By using this, you can go ahead and enforce that, hey, anybody that's in accounting or in this area of the organization, I want them to have a minimum 4 or 6-digit PIN. And you can kind of do that from here. Some other settings include setting the IP address to be static on the devices, controlling DHCP, and so forth. I expect as time goes on, there are going to be more features added into the configuration profiles for our Teams devices, but we are just starting to see this up here inside the Teams Admin Center. As stated before, device updates can be performed from the Teams Admin Center. As stated before, you can either select a group of devices or just select one device at a time. And you can say, hey, we're going to do maintenance this weekend. I want to upgrade every single phone. We're going to select all of our phones, or collaboration bars if you do have those added in here. And you can go and say, I want to update the Teams agent firmware, everything right from a single pane of glass. You hit update. That is queried on every single device. So the next time that device checks into Microsoft, it will go ahead and start performing those actions. The other really nice thing that is able to be pulled from the Teams Admin Center is information about the device itself. So what's cool is that you can see the individual device health, whether it's online or offline, but you can also go here to gather the device logs. As kind of like the update process, there is a delay as to when you can get those device logs. So maybe if you're troubleshooting some sign-in issues and you want to pull some logging information from the Teams phone, you can just come in here, hit download device logs, a query will be sent out, and within a few minutes, you'll get those device logs provided to you. The health of the device will show, whether or not your firmware is up to date. The details tab will show any specific device information. So, depending on the device, like the IP address of the phone or like the serial number is included in that. Now, the history tab provides an audit trail as to like when configuration changes were made to the device. So, if let's say John Paul or somebody went ahead and wanted to push an update to the Teams device, and you can go to that history tab and see exactly when he pushed that update and see exactly what update and what revision he pushed to that phone. And as stated before, you can also download the device logs from this portal. So now that we've kind of covered how we manage Teams rooms, Teams phones, collaboration bars, and Teams desk displays, the last category device for Microsoft Teams is our Surface Hubs. So Microsoft Surface Hubs are managed via Microsoft Intune or a supported mobile device management platform. This could be something like SCCM or even just something as simple as Office 365 MDM policies. So one of the things that sometimes people might ask is, why are Surface Hubs managed differently? The Surface Hub itself is not just a meeting device. It's not dedicated to Microsoft Teams. It's not something that's just going to appear in Microsoft Teams. It's more or less a Windows 10 PC that has certain features locked down, but it allows an organization to kind of do different things, such as install Windows 10 Store apps, use as a web browser. There's a lot of things that it can do other than just Teams. So that's why there is no specific interface inside the Teams Admin Center to do this. And part of this is because it runs a different version of Windows 10. It's called Windows 10 Team, also known as Windows 10 PPI Pro. And as stated before, it only permits Windows Store apps from running on the device. Now, if you do want to go ahead and manage your Surface Hub, if you sign to a Surface Hub during the initial out-of-the-box experience, the Surface Hub is automatically going to be associated with Microsoft Intune in the cloud if your organization has Microsoft Intune deployed. However, if you deployed your Surface Hub without actually having Microsoft Intune deployed in your organization, you want to add that to Microsoft Intune, you will need to manually register that Surface Hub. So you'll need to sign in as an admin on the Surface Hub, whether you're using a local admin, domain admin, or a cloud admin account. You'll need to go to the PC settings app, go to the device management, and click add. When you add this, you're going to be asked to sign to Office 365 as a user. And after authenticating, the Surface Hub will automatically register with Microsoft Intune, much like it would have normally done inside the out-of-the-box experience. Now we move on to one of the more interesting parts of the presentation, where we're going to go ahead and go into the live demo. So I'm going to quickly go over the Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms. So after signing in, you're going to be presented with this dashboard. And it'll kind of give you a little bit of insight into the Microsoft Teams rooms. It'll give you a little bit of information about any type of updates that are coming to the MTR application via the Windows Store or via Windows Update. You can kind of see that down here in the bottom right. It'll kind of go over what has been changed or what has been fixed inside of this application update as well. And it'll also show you any type of known issue that is currently out there. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll see that I have one active incident in this scenario. So right now behind me, I have my Lenovo Hub 500, and I purposely do not have a camera plugged into it. So you'll see right here that I got an alert raised automatically that says, hey, there's a problem with the camera on this meeting room, and that right now it's pending investigation. If I click on this, it's going to go ahead and pull up the information about the Teams room itself. So you can kind of see every single thing here is working as expected. HDMI ingest, the displays, the conference microphones, everything is working except for the camera itself. Now, because this device is not currently enrolled inside the Managed Meeting Room service where Microsoft is actually actively monitoring the device, no ticket is being raised. But if I click this enroll button, I'm going to immediately get a ticket from Microsoft saying, hey, why is there no camera plugged into this device? What's also really nice about this is that you can also look into individual things about the MTR, such as the BIOS version, the default speaker. You can also go here and see a history. You kind of see, hey, what type of events happen on this device? So you can kind of see here, if I click on the camera, you can see, hey, there's been some incidents started, raised, for this camera not being actually plugged into the Microsoft Teams room. Across the settings tab, this gives you a raw data output of the Microsoft Teams room. So you can kind of see exactly what cameras I have, what type of speakers and microphones I'm using, the serial number of the device, everything else. I am not going to scroll down too far because it does show the longitude and latitude of the device. So based on my external IP address, it was able to find my exact location. So don't want to scroll down too much. Or I might have some unexpected visitors or something that matter. But it does give you that full insight into the Teams room system itself. Now, in terms of actions, right now, the only action that we have under the portal is to go ahead and restart the device. So as soon as I issue this restart device command, the managed meeting room service is going to send a query out to the application, the service that's running on the room system itself, and tell it to, hey, reboot. Maybe you got a ticket that, hey, there's too many issues with this meeting room and something was lagging out. Maybe a reboot might fix that. You can do that right from here. In addition to this, you can also go ahead and refresh any logs from this room. So if you gather logs from the device, you'll be able to find those here. And then also you can go ahead and control the updates from the Microsoft Teams room. So if there's any app updates or any operating system updates, those will show up under here. And then also you can kind of change the ring as to when you want to get updates. So if this is like an executive office, you want to make sure there's 0 issues, you can pop this into the executive ring so that there's rarely any updates being applied to this Teams room. Now, if you want to get earlier access, you can put this in the staging and assign that staging ring where you can maybe it's like IT has their own room system that they want to go ahead and actually try out, things before they're released to all the rooms. You can go ahead and put that into a staging ring right from here. In addition to this, on the left-hand side, we can see all of our rooms. So if I had multiple Teams rooms added to this, you'll be able to see the health and the status of all those rooms. As you can see, this room is unhealthy, but it's also marked as onboarding. So as previously stated, I do not have this room and currently enrolled with the managed meeting room service, but you can kind of see that status across all your meeting rooms in case you want to deploy the application out via your RMM platform and install that automatically on your devices. You can have all your rooms pop up in here, but maybe you only want to manage certain ones once you verify that everything is correct with those rooms before turning that feature on. Now, unfortunately, I don't have enough data in here to actually show you this, but we do have information about the reports that are available inside the Microsoft Managed Meeting Rooms. So you can kind of see ticket history, what type of tickets are affecting the most. Are you having connectivity issues? Are they customer reported, audio? You can kind of get that insight into here. You can also see the health and different information about usage into your Microsoft Teams rooms. And then also you can kind of see what updates are available for your rooms and can control the output of the updates to those different rings. Now, what's also cool is you can create different rings for your organization. So this isn't actually Microsoft's internal rings for like TAP or internal. These are just your own rings. So you can kind of say, I want to only roll out to huddle rooms first or something else that matter. You can control and create those here. And then lastly, the settings tab will go ahead and show you where you can download the installer as mentioned previously in the presentation, along with your individual key and also who will be contacted in the event that something does happen with your Teams room. Now we are going to run out of quick time to kind of quickly dive into this. So we're just going to kind of look at this real quick. But if you do want to manage your phones and collaboration bars, that is inside the Teams Admin Center on the left. You go to Devices, and you'll see Phones and Collaboration bars listed here. As stated previously, I can click in each individual device and pull information about the device, such as the health, whether there's updates available, the history of when different tasks were performed against and maybe who performed those tasks against it. You can see all that right there from the Teams Admin Center. So we're going to hop back into the presentation now, and we're going to kind of close things up with a little bit of wrap up. So I do want to give a special thank you to all of our sponsors of Commsverse this year. This event would not be possible without each one of you. So big shout out to all the sponsors of Commsverse. Really excited to kind of move Commsverse back to an in-person event if everything goes as planned next year. So let's keep our fingers crossed that kind of our in-person events come back. In terms of feedback for today's session, if you do want to go ahead and provide some feedback to me on how well or bad I did during this presentation, feel free to go to the goteams.fans/survey link. And if you do have any questions or run into issues, feel free to reach out to me on my Twitter or my blog. My Twitter is @EricMarcy, and my blog is www.ucit.blog. After this session today, we are going to have a breakout session, and that link will be provided inside the chat. Once I'm in that breakout session, if you have any questions about Teams rooms, Teams devices that you need answered, feel free to kind of meet me there and kind of have a one-on-one conversation. So, hope to see you guys there and talk more about Microsoft Teams devices and rooms. So all in all, thank you again today for attending my session. I greatly appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from you guys, and stay safe out there and have a great rest of your Commsverse conference.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Eric. We've now got just a few short questions to get through from our audience, so I shall start going through those right now. So we have an anonymous question from Anonymous. So I've recently added our first common area phone, Yealink T55A. I've signed it in as a CAP user. Firmware is up to date. I can make and receive calls, but I do not see it in the Teams Admin Center. Is there any step I am missing? I have had it registered for nearly 2 weeks and it doesn't show up.
So in terms of that question, I would highly advise that you reach out to Microsoft to kind of look into that, because usually within an hour or two of signing into the device will appear inside the Teams Admin Center. So it does not sound like something that's working properly. So I would highly advise you to reach out to Microsoft to kind of look and make sure that everything's set correctly in your tenant for the device to appear. Now, the other question I might have is this just a single device, or do you have multiple common area phones and all of them are not showing? And that might, if you have like 3 phones that you sign in as common area phones, there might be something going on with your individual tenant that might be preventing that from appearing.
Okay. Next question, another anonymous. A couple of thoughts. In Skype for Business, there is a great story on how to manage phones. In Teams, I am struggling to say the same thing. So that's more of a comment really than a question. Anything on that, Eric? Or?
Yeah, so the remote management story for the next question actually on the phones and collab bars, there currently is not a way to remotely sign into those. The big thing with that is that, if you have a user account that's trying to sign into like a Teams phone, and let's say you have MFA deployed, you can't really push those credentials to that device and have it sign in automatically as that user. Microsoft did kind of alleviate the pain of trying to type in your email address or something else on the device itself by going ahead and providing a little button you can press during the sign-in process where you can just go to a link on your PC, enter the code on the phone display, and then sign in using your mouse and keyboard on your computer. So instead of having to rely on that individual thing there. Now with common area phones, I do believe I've heard, I'm not too sure on this. I have heard that they are going to work on some way to automatically sign those devices in, but they won't have like all like the individual features like Outlook and other things like that on those common area phones. Or be able to view like a calendar or something of that matter.
Okay. And the last one we have here is, again, more of a comment, really. The collab bars, even though being interesting, introducing yet another UI has not been welcomed by our users. Why couldn't it look like an MTR?
The one thing that I could kind of comment on that, why it would not look exactly like an MTR, is 2 reasons. First thing first, it is a different application and a different platform, so it is no longer Windows, it is Android. But the other big thing is that instead of it being designed where you have a room console and a front of the room display, it's designed to be a single screen device. So, with touchscreens being a thing for that you see a lot of times used with collaboration bars, if you moved one to a Teams room or whatever with a collaboration bar, you wouldn't want to be moving a mouse around and trying to click on different things. So they had to change the UI a little bit to be able to just quickly tap on the main front of room display to go ahead and actually join to that meeting. So things will probably change as time goes on. Right now, we're in like with pop-out meetings and all the other things. We are going through a little bit of UI changes. So I do expect that to kind of change with all the devices as time goes on. But that is just kind of the main reason as to why the UI is a little bit different from an MTR.
Amazing, thank you. So that's all the time we have for this session, everybody. If you'd like to talk some more with Eric following the session, as he's already mentioned, you can find him in the session breakout area. Please check the Q&A for the link to join that meeting. And thank you all very much for watching.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for joining.